Today's video, we're starting out in a pretty interesting way, a little bit different than we normally do. We're talking about wildfire smoke and air quality here, because if you live anywhere in the Northeast, Ohio Valley, or Mid-Atlantic, I believe that you were probably seeing some haziness outside, and that is actually due to these Canadian wildfires that have all sparked up over the last few days and caused a significant amount of smoke to basically enter in through a backdoor cold front into a lot of the eastern United States. And as things stand, overnight, we've seen wildfire smoke basically bringing impacts to all of these areas here that you can see a lot of colors going on. The origins here are here in Ontario. These are going to be right over here is where they all sparked up almost at the same exact time here. And they have really led towards many different impacts. As we see a storm system rolling through, we have a pretty significant amount here through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, portions of northern Tennessee and North Carolina, as well as southern Virginia. You are seeing a lot of haziness. Things are even worse, actually, up here to the northeast, though, for New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, probably Connecticut and Rhode Island as well, and northern Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey, where we have very, very bad visibility, air quality, haziness, etc. You name it, and they are experiencing terrible smokiness in those areas. And as we just move time on, we can see that this does subside a bit. We do see this is mostly for Canada at this point where that fire is. And this is by the time we're reaching Friday. But once we move on, if those fires don't get taken out, we're going to see this enter due to basically modeling and knowing where these wind directions are going to be headed. We could see the Great Lakes and Upper Midwest would be next for mid next week if these fires are not extinguished by that point, or at least significantly diminished by that point. And then it dips back down into the Northeast by the time we're reaching that next weekend, so around the 15th and beyond. So we really need to watch this closely. We could see substantial amounts of continued impacts due to this smoke that is just really nasty. It's leading towards temperature changes, air quality. I feel a little bit of asthma coming on just from being outside a lot this morning. And it's just not good for the air quality at all. So we really need to hope that those fires get extinguished. Obviously, the direct impacts from those fires up there in Canada are far worse than this. But I think that the fact that this fire is causing so many impacts for so many Canadians and Americans alike is absolutely mind-boggling. And all of us have to hope that these fires get extinguished. As we take a look at the wind direction, we can kind of get a better perspective of why that smoke is being carried down into the eastern United States. That smoke is originating in these areas here of southern Ontario, or Quebec, better yet. And as you can see, the wind is carrying it down, and if we follow the jet stream, it's moving in this kind of a fashion. So for a lot of areas, it's moving in like this. Some it's stretching a little bit further and moving in like this, but this is the general direction that smoke is being carried at the time being. As we continue on, we see this doesn't really change, except it has to be carried further in the extended period. So it has to kind of do a really large wraparound here for a lot of these areas, which is probably going to help to diminish it a little bit as it's on its way. Could begin to worsen for a lot of these areas in here. Only time will truly be able to tell for that. As we continue on, we see that there's a little bit less wind, and eventually we get a low moving through into here, and this actually carries the wind northward. So this should get rid of all the smoke by that point for the most part. And then we start to see it move back into the upper Midwest and then potentially back this way. This is all assuming that it is not extinguished. We have to just kind of think of it that way and really consider all the possibilities between now and then. But it begins to move southward again if it's still going on within 10 days. So by the 17th, more like the 15th, 16th time frame, we would have pretty drastic changes back into a similar pattern where we could get these moving back in like this again for these areas that have already experienced a lot of smoke. It could be experiencing more if it's not extinguished by about the 15th. So just wanted to give you guys an update. This is something that's affecting everybody, and people are probably waking up this morning thinking, what is all this haze about? And I wanted to answer some of that for you guys today. Now, as we move on to our regularly scheduled show here, where we talk about the weather, not smoke, we can see that we are experiencing some thunderstorm activity for the first time in weeks here for North Carolina and Virginia here. Actually, it's not been weeks. It's been like a week maybe. So still a pretty significant amount of time, but not weeks. That's a bit of an exaggeration. And we see that that kind of continues on tomorrow for Thursday for these coastal areas. We see that this low is nearby and this brings some precipitation nearby the coast. We do at the same time have plenty of this activity happening for the Rockies and portions of the northern plains still. So that is also taking place by this point. Now, by Friday the 9th here, we have another storm system moving into the northeast, bringing rainfall, thunderstorms. It just depends on the temperatures. That smoke can bring drier air, which could lead towards less potential for thunderstorms at least. So that is also something to think about. We see the plains dealing with continued activity here as well. So that is all going to be things to think about. By the time we're reaching Saturday the 10th here, we could see that the plains are still dealing with these thunderstorms flaring up every now and then, as they've been seeing for so many days now. By Sunday, June 11th here, we could see more thunderstorms here for the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes. This is moving eastward though. We can even see the southeast dealing with plenty of thunderstorm activity. By the time we reach Monday the 12th here, we can see that the East Coast is seeing plenty of thunderstorms for the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and this is all due to a low here. So we have a bit of a cold front stretching underneath, and this would bring pretty strong thunderstorms potentially to these areas underneath. As we keep going with this, we get a little bit quieter, but we do have a bit of a storm system moving through the southeast here. So if you're catching the trend here, we actually expect more activity in the east than we've been seeing for the most part. And that continues all the way towards Friday and Saturday, where we have another system moving down. We have this continued system here. This is probably going to take aim at areas further east, and we can anticipate more activity continuing for a lot of these areas in the east. So a big change, like we've been kind of anticipating, is upcoming very, very near here. As we take a look at the total precipitation, we still expect plenty here for the Rockies, the plains as well here, as you can see, but we actually expect the most, I would say, here for the southeast, and then the upper Midwest and the northeast here. This looks like a very frightened face here taking place, but we can see that there is a lot more activity than we had been seeing here expected in the east. Probably the most happening through here, like I mentioned, but still a significant amount for those Great Lakes, the northeast, and the northern Rockies. Total snowfall here, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it looks like it's actually increased, especially the amount of areas seeing some snowfall here in the Rockies. We see a dusting, maybe a couple of inches here for these Rockies, and then still nearly 10 inches or more here for the Sierra Nevadas. Very, very interesting. Temperatures here, we see cooler air. Again, what's carrying the smoke down, because the smoke is coming from this area here, what's carrying it down is we have this cold air mass, a backdoor cold front kind of creeping down east of the Appalachian Mountains, and that is carrying the smoke with it. So it's just really a rarer type of air movement, air mass taking place. And unfortunately, this is bringing that smoke down in a very unusual fashion. We do have a negative PNA setting up here, though, and that is going to encourage warmer air to set up in the east over time. We'll see that take place after a cold front early next week. We see warmth really beginning to build in for the east. And overall, the pattern mostly looks like this for the time being through all the way into the upcoming pattern. Negative PNA out there encourages warmer temperatures, especially for the central United States, and then more neutral to warm temperatures here in the east. That is our expectations at this point. We will continue to update you guys on these things daily, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Also, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.